You've probably heard of Bitcoin before, but do you know how they're made? In this video, I explain to you how Bitcoin mining works. My name is Lennart Rugen and welcome to my channel. So in the end, Bitcoin mining is the process in which a blockchain gets extended by another block. To be more precise, the Bitcoin miners do not mine or search for new Bitcoins at all, but rather for a new block that can be attached to the blockchain. And this block, which can be attached to the blockchain, fulfills even more uses than just generating new Bitcoins. Because transactions are carried out and old ones are confirmed with each new block. But yes, with every new block, new Bitcoins are mined. This means that the miner has a much greater use in the network than you might have thought, because its main task is not to generate more Bitcoins, but to secure and process all the transactions that have ever taken place on the network. But how do miners actually find their blocks? What needs to be done to find a new block for the blockchain? As we have just clarified, Bitcoin mining primarily involves processing transactions. This means that the miner first gets a series of transactions he wants to process. This process is super easy, because all the miner has to do is request a Bitcoin node and pick up the transactions. For this moment, we can define a Bitcoin node as a pool where all the unverified and unprocessed transactions are in. So if you want to carry out a transaction to the Bitcoin network, all you have to do is to send your transaction to a Bitcoin node. By the way, you can even operate your very own Bitcoin node at a very low cost. If you want to learn more about that, check out the info card and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, because we'll see some crazy videos in the future. Right now the miner has all the transactions he wants to process, so he can start looking for a new block. In order to do so, he has to solve a cryptographic puzzle. To be more precise, the cryptographic puzzle is a complicated hash algorithm. Complicated for humans, but very easy to solve for computers. But we won't cover it in this video because there's a lot of math in connection with hash algorithms. But for you to get a better understanding of what the miner is actually doing in the hash algorithm, you can imagine the whole process as something like a dice roll. Because the miner is always like rolling the same amount of dices. For example, I got like 5 dices over here. And now the requirement, based on the current difficulty level in the network, says something like, if you want to find a valid block, you need to have 3 sixes out of your 5 dices. So you see the point, because this task for me is really easy. I just have to shake the dice, roll them out, check if there are 6s or not. If not, re-roll them again and repeat the whole process till I get like 3 sixes out of my 5 dices. But for every other person in the network, it is very easy to confirm that I got 3 sixes, because they don't have to roll, they just have to check after I rolled them, are there 3 sixes or are there not. This is why we call it proof of work, because I can show to you that I did some work to get to this result, because there's like only a tiny possibility to get 3 sixes out of 5 dices, but you can just check them in a second and don't have to redo all the work in order to check if I have really done it. I've now talked a lot about difficulty level in the network, but how is the difficulty level determined? The difficulty level is determined by how long it takes on average to find a new valid block and attach it to the blockchain. As a rule, this should be exactly 10 minutes on average. To check the standard time, the average block time is collected every 2016 blocks. If this average time is faster than 10 minutes per new block, then the difficulty level is going to be increased. If the time is slower than 10 minutes per new block on average, the difficulty level will be reduced. So the important thing to understand here is that the miner is doing the same simple task over and over again. Maybe you've seen these mining machines that look like fancy computers. They are really good at solving the same hash algorithm like many times a second. But it's always the same task. The only thing that is possible to change is the conditions that are applied to the result to make it a valid block. And these conditions are only and heavily influenced by the difficulty level that is currently in the network. Okay, but how do miners make their money? Because there is just no way that anyone would set up machines over machines just to get nothing. To find out how Bitcoin miners make their money, we should go a bit back to the point where we talked about new Bitcoins being created. Because one way of financing is the newly generated Bitcoins, which the miner is allowed to transfer to his own address in the block he created. The second way Bitcoin miners finance themselves is over the transaction fees. Because with every transaction that you feed in the Bitcoin network, you can and probably should set a transaction fee that you are willing to give to the miner for including your transaction in his newly mined block. And this second part in particular is becoming increasingly more important for the miners, since the number of newly created Bitcoins is halved every 210,000 blocks, or about every 4 years, until at some point no more new Bitcoins are being generated and the miners only live on the transaction fees. It's not so far away and could be reached in a few decades. So that's already it with this little video today. I hope I was able to explain to you how Bitcoin mining works. If you have any questions left, write them in the comments. Also, please let me know how you think about me speaking English in my videos. I personally hope to reach a bigger audience, but I know that there is still a lot to improve in my English. See you in the next video. Bye bye!